Okay, we are live. Thank you, everyone. This is Chaotic Sports. My name is Chris Sarda. This is Insane Wayne Flint to my right, or I don't know which side you're on. It's hard to tell in this mirror crap. I don't know what days we're supposed to go on, but we decided to go on today. Today's Thursday, right?
Yeah,
So
we've been
let's
doing
get on.
Thursdays pretty consistently.
Oh, well, good. Then this will be our day. This will be our day for podcasting. So or live streaming. So you could find us at Chaotic Sports on Instagram or on Twitter, and then at Chris Sarda and at Never Do I Lose right there below Wayne on also on Twitter. So I don't really normally we talk a little bit and we have a plan. We spend a little time talking about Angelo, but I don't really have a plan. As we went live, the Cowboys just failed at getting an onside kick. And so they did lose. They posed a little bit of in the time that we decided to stream and I was setting stuff up and everything, they scored twice. So the score looks a lot like the game was a lot closer than it was, but they just turned it on at the end and still end up with a loss. But their stats, the Cowboys are, depending how you look at it, the Cowboys are the top offense in the league. So stats wise, they're going to look good again, but not win loss record wise, and definitely not win loss record wise for a team that is in first place and headed to the playoffs.
I feel like I want to interject here just for a moment because I don't understand how you can be a top offense if you can't put points on the board when it matters, i.e. the Cleveland Browns. Like, it just doesn't work. You have to put points on the board when it matters and score to win the game.
I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, in the end, these 14 points that they scored in the last few minutes end up being trash points, right? But stats don't see it that way. The stats see that you put up 24. But if you watch the game, Dallas looked really just slower. The defense couldn't stop Mitchell Trubisky. And the offense just continued to sputter, even though that first drive was really good. So, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think they're good. They're six. What are they? They're 6-6, or they're going to be 6. Is that 6-7? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that updated yet. But they're still in first place. They're in first place. They're going to have the 4th seed. Minnesota will probably end up with a better record than them, and they will be a wild card team. So I agree with you on that, but I mean, stats wise, they're one of the best offenses in the league if you just count points scored and yards and quarterback ratings and whatnot.
But like I know, I mean, I'm not telling you something you don't already know, man. Stats.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Part of the story.
I agree with you. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you, definitely. I mean, that's of course, except for the 49er game, that's what I've been telling people on my side. Are these streams just going to be you and I trying to talk about our respective teams? Like, we're talking about the Cowboys. You want to interject the Browns? I'm trying to interject the Packers. So, like, that's what I've been saying about Aaron Rodgers, is that he's actually playing really well. Just in the red zone, he's giving up the ball a lot this year to running backs for touchdowns and whatnot. So anyway, Cowboys are not impressive. They certainly aren't good against good teams, and the Bears that are sort of middle of the road or at best talented and just underachieving are also manhandling them for most of the game. So what are we gonna do? We talk a little NBA today for sure, I think, because we haven't really. It's basically the quarter point of the season. But do you have anything else to say about the Cowboys?
We're almost upon December, so yeah. No, I mean, I think it's like beating a dead horse. There's
it's your favorite thing to do.
There's a lack of leadership at the top. Jerry Jones is a great owner. Like, I just feel like
I don't know about that.
I feel like successful entities are always knows each working part of the entity. So if you're the money guy, be the money guy. Just focus on that. If you're the head coach or the manager, be the head coach, be the manager. Allow each working part to the entity to do its job at the best of its ability, and I think you'll find more success. And I think Jerry Jones has too much of a hand as the owner. It worked back in the day. It definitely worked back in the day with Emmitt Smith, but it's a different game, and it's evolved.
So I agree with you. I thought you were trying to say that Jerry Jones didn't do that. I was like, man, does all of that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's basically the GM essentially. So,
and the coach.
Let's just. What do you let's keep it light on football.
The top teams. How about we talk about the top teams in both divisions? Top 3, top 4 teams.
We did that last week.
Oh, well then.
We basically did that last week. So this is what we'll do. I want to talk a little more basketball, but let me give you a moment to vent for any watchers about your Cleveland Browns. You were wearing a Browns hat just before we went live, and you're not anymore.
No, I
you're not anymore.
I haven't been wearing Browns attire since our last loss. Actually, no, I take that back. Since you know how.
What hat were you just wearing?
Well, that was an Ohio State hat, but it was
Ohio State,
which are champions. But what I was going to say is, I haven't worn any Browns attire since the Friday before their previous loss or their last loss. But there's nothing to say about the fact that our coaching and lack of experience in that area is showing immensely. I mean, there's nothing you can really. We have a lot of talent, but talent doesn't win games. You have to cultivate it and put talent in the right positions to win games, and we're lacking that. In spades,
man, the Browns can't keep firing. They can't keep firing head coaches, though, man. Is every head coach not the answer? Is every head coach not the answer? And to be honest, they shouldn't have hired Freddie Kitchens in the first place. They have a young quarterback, they all this, and they hired, basically a guy that amounts to an interim guy. I think he had a little more to prove, as one of the more sub coaches, and they kept him around, and it didn't make that much sense to me then. I was like, you got to go all in for a coach. That's what I was thinking. I know you're hoping for Harbaugh, but it looks like they're going to fire another head coach early, and it's getting to the point where. What's worse? What's less stable, the head coaching position or the quarterback position for the Browns? Because lately, we've just gotten used to the quarterback position not being stable, and the head coaches just are coming in and out.
I think, like you said, a revolving door on the head coaches, and I think now we have a stable, possibly consistent, productive quarterback in Baker Mayfield. He needs to humble himself and be a student of the game. And
you should do some commercials.
Oh, funny guy. But I think he could throw the football accurately. He could definitely use some guidance in decision making. I think that's part of why our team is not having as much success, is because in crucial moments he's put in situations through the game plan and through the play calling to make decisions, and he's not making the right one. And that's important for football teams to have success. So it's going to still take some time in regards to Freddie Kitchens.
The little bit we already know your Freddie Kitchens stuff. We've talked about it every week. With Baker, the little bit I've seen of him though, he looks like I thought Russell Wilson would look because he was small. But then Russell Wilson is so smart and one of the best players ever, especially efficiency of stat wise, that he's been able to overcome it. And even I know Kyler Murray is a rookie in his first year, but he looks really small out there, but he's figured it out. Although it is early year and Baker looked good last year. Do you think that there's a size factor with Baker? Like, you think that's something he'll get over?
I think he makes bad decisions, and he does get a lot of balls. Football's batted. He's got to be in the top 5, if not top 3, for batted footballs.
So that size, and sometimes I don't think he can see over If he steps up into the pocket, I think he loses view.
But
So I don't know. I don't know yet.
I think you could also attribute it to bad decision making. I think he's that guy that always thinks he can make the play, a la Brett Favre. He's that guy that thinks he can fit this ball into this super tight window.
But Brett Favre made more of those plays than he didn't. He made far more. What do you mean? If he didn't, he wouldn't have had a 15-year career. He made probably 3 times more of those plays than he didn't. How tall is he? What is he? 5? Oh, he's 6'1". That's not tiny. That's listed height. He probably isn't that. Kyler Murray's 5'10". Okay, he's 2 inches taller than Russell Wilson, according to the internet. The internet's always right. So
let's do this. I do want to touch on the topic with football before we move on. I think let's make this our last topic. Okay. Let me get your top 2 or 3 candidates for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and Most Valuable Player, and then Coach of the Year.
You literally said MVP and Most Valuable Player in that list. Candidates for MVP are Russell Wilson. He's been consistent, although it's not like he's blowing people out either. Every game is like 4 points, is a 4-point win. It seems like, but he's a. I don't subscribe to the thing that you do, like because it's just so heart, and I'm not mushy at all. This clutch, and he does it, and he figures it out, and he wins games. None of that stuff ever makes sense to me. It's just geeky. But Russell Wilson, even though it seems like the games are always close, he's very efficient and very good quarterback. He's not going to win it, but I just would like to point it out because he's broken the color barrier for white running backs is Christian McCaffrey. So he's in the mix, at least for non-quarterbacks. But obviously he's not going to win it. I mean, Offensive Player of the Year, who knows how that works. But MVP's probably got to go to quarterback.
There's another white running back in Miami. I don't know if you saw his name. I think it's Laird, I think.
Oh, is he a white guy? I've never seen him. I've never seen him. I know who you're talking about, but I just assumed he's a black guy.
He's recent on the team. I've seen
them. I've seen him playing last couple of weeks, but I didn't see his face. You know what I mean? So it's like, that just must be. That's not Christian McCaffrey. And I would go Russell. I would go. I'm drawing a blank. Who do you have? Let me see if I can.
Lamar Miller is the Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry. Lamar.
Oh yeah. Lamar Jackson's, of course. Lamar Jackson.
The leading candidate is Lamar Jackson. And
so here's what I would say:
a dark horse. Here's a dark horse for you that nobody's thinking about. Ryan Tannehill.
No, that's not a dark horse. He's played 3 games. He's played 4 games. That's not a dark horse. He's played very well. He's played very well for a month. That's not a dark horse. Yes, he's outplayed. He's outplayed even Lamar Jackson over the last month.
So, what would your recommend? What would your opinion of a dark horse would be? A guy that you don't expect to win it, that came out of nowhere. I feel like that's.
No. He's player of the month. He's not MVP of the year. Player of the month.
Well,
you give him player of the month.
If they go to the playoffs, and I think he could be in the conversation.
So I think they are going to the playoffs, and MVP is for the regular season.
Okay, I take that back. They win the division. They win the division. I don't think they're strong consideration.
I don't think they can win the division. Let me see.
I think they can, because they dismantled Houston recently. They dismantled Houston.
They're only game. They're a game behind Houston only, and Indianapolis Colts, who looked like world beaters, are now way out of the line. I would still give it. I would still put the what's his name from Houston above Ryan Tannehill.
Okay. So
I've seen Tannehill play. I've seen Tannehill play well for a few weeks at a time when he was a Dolphin over his career. It's just I mean, people are surprised to see him.
So if you were to give it to a running back, aside from McCaffrey, who would it be? I'm gonna force you to think here.
I mean, you're forcing me to think, but it's a live show, so now I got to go like look at a list of teams and like call out. I like what's his name. He's not the enemy. He's not the guy I would say, but I like the and his name slips my mind too. Is the kid from Oakland? I like him a lot. How about I just say it? Aaron Jones.
Jacobs.
Huh? Jacobs from Oakland. Aaron Jones. Go Aaron Jones.
All right, so
who would you say? No, why aren't you telling? You're the one that brought this up. Tell me your candidates. You asked me something I'm not even prepared for.
Yeah, that's true. This is the chaotic side of our first podcast.
This is like our
chaotic
fourth
podcast. No,
dude, I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you what the best running backs are. I see a bunch of teams that I'm like, oh, they have a good running game, but they're
the reason I asked. I mean, I kind of set you up with that, but the reason I ask is Derrick Henry could be considered an MVP candidate. I mean, he's playing phenomenal. And
no, there's only one running.
As much credit to Tannehill, but Derrick Henry is consistently putting up numbers.
No, I see. That's another thing. It's not. I don't think that's been consistent. So you're being very Tyler right now, where you're only thinking like the last 2 weeks and extrapolating it. I don't think Derrick Henry's been super consistent. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up. I'll pull up Derrick Henry. You're going to small sample size hell. You've been in a statistics class. You copied me. You should know something here. Welcome to the live show where you watch Chris look at stats, pull up stats.
And what I was saying earlier.
We're never letting you run the show and ask the questions again.
Well, no.
Let's see.
This is a la you and Angelo. This is a la you and Angelo. This is our first.
I don't let Angelo do this. I don't let Angelo look up stats. No, he's not been consistent. You literally have a 3-week memory. On 11-3, he didn't even have 15. He didn't even have. He had like 60 yards, 70 yards. He's been playing great lately, dude. He's been playing great lately. But hey, Derrick Henry's good. I'm not trying to say he's not good, but these are Titans in general. That whole team is team of the month. I mean, to knock down Indianapolis a peg that at the time everyone thought was so good. I mean, that's quality right there. Let's move on to basketball. Let's just throw some basketball ideas out. This is a fun one since we talked a little bit about it on the text message thread. So I said that James Harden you could make an argument that James Harden is better than Kobe Bryant. All right, I just threw it out there, and you seem to have something. Now I don't really think that because the defensive side, but what came out of this thread though, and I'm not saying Kobe Bryant. I don't want to argue that because I do think Kobe Bryant's better with defense. You seem to have something against James Harden. You seem to think that because of the way the game is today, he's good. But I posit that James Harden adapts to the game. Because if you look at his shot chart, which I also put on the text messages, if you look at his shot chart, that guy looked up stats and goes, well, that's the way I need to play. Every shot needs to be in the paint or outside of the arc. He had this year, he has 5 shots that are 20-footers, and he was probably drawing fouls on them. So what do you have against James Harden?
Definitely not that I have anything against James Harden. I just think
one of the greatest 2 guards ever.
I think you're being a bit facetious in that statement, but
no,
James Harden is not productive in the playoffs. In big games, he doesn't show up, so I just don't think you can be considered elite or greatest ever in your position if, in fact, in clutch Western Conference Finals
Clutch.
Playoff games. If you can't control and take the destiny in your own hands and at least step up to the plate, then I just can't put you in that category personally. I think Kobe has proven time and time again that he has that clutch gene, and with it, he's been productive and got some rings. Got to get a championship first.
Yeah, I mean, so you got championships, that's fine with LeBron, but I mean, he's proven to not be clutch very often. I mean, he's maybe 50-50 at it, right? He's got championships. But only when there's a nice little group around him. He couldn't even lead the Lakers to the playoffs last year. He couldn't even be a top 8 team last year.
Let it be known, I'm not going to let you troll me here on a live podcast. Not happening.
I am trolling you.
Come on, Lonzo Ball is a bench rider.
It doesn't matter. How good is he? I mean, how good is LeBron, though?
But compare last year's LeBron team. Let's just do this for a second. Compare last year's LeBron team that didn't get to the playoffs to the LeBron team that he took and carried to the playoffs with what's the point guard that I can't even think of.
It doesn't even matter because that was the Eastern Conference. And that was the Eastern Conference. That was the Eastern Conference. Who James Harden had a first seed before he had any players on his team. He was the only player on his team before Chris Paul. They were the first seed that year, or maybe the second seed. But I mean, LeBron couldn't even get to the 8th seed last year. So what you're saying in the championship, it is true, and I'll take that for Harden. He has disappeared in important games, which is big, and a lot of times he looks unguardable. Sometimes he gets real quiet. There are other times where I just think it's a stat fluke, like those 20. He didn't miss 27, but the whole team missed 27 3-pointers in a row. That should have been everyone got cold. That is just a super fluke. Golden State shouldn't have gone into the championship that year, but they did it. They missed 27 in a row. What can you do? So I'll give you that side for Harden. The other thing I'll say, though, is that Harden's career is not over. So he wins a championship. You can't keep saying that, With that said, I don't think he's gonna. I mean, this year's his best chance because there's no
newsflash. He just got Westbrook on his team, and that is two
Westbrook's
players
playing bad.
But that's two players that play the game very similar. They make bad decisions in crunch time. When the game matters and the game is on the line, they both make bad decisions.
I'm gonna switch. No, that's wrong. Harden doesn't necessarily make bad decisions. He's just disappeared. Just shots don't fall. The double team works. So I mean, what bad decision has he made? There's just times in the playoffs where you go, where the hell is Harden? When can you think of a bad? I can think of plenty of times. It's not a bad decision though. I'm admitting that, but it's not like trying to shoot a 3 when you only need two points or something like that.
Great players find a way to impact the game.
I agree with you. That's absolutely true. And Harden's career is not over either, right? So, I mean, he's only 5 years into the superstar status. He had to waste the beginning of his career coming off the bench. So I agree with you on those, but it's not a bad decision situation.
Great scorer. Here's a question for you. Who's a better scorer, him or Durant?
Natural scorer Durant. Harden because of how.
Help me out here. What does that mean? I've always wondered what natural scorer meant. So please elaborate.
The way he can score, get to the basket, and shoot based on his athleticism. That's my definition. Where Harden is a full stats guy, right? He knows what he needs to do to get the most out of the rules and efficiency. So he's the most efficient. Even as many shots as he throws down. He's not Allen Iverson. Harden.
Who is more?
Harden's efficient.
More efficient than Durant?
I pull up, but let's pull up some 3-point average or 3-point averages and stuff. I mean, he's right there. He's averaging 38 points right now. If the season ended today, by the way, there's the math is difficult, but there's a stat called PER, which I'm sure you've heard, but it's player efficiency rating. Do you know if the season ended today, Luca, Greek Freak, and Harden would be have the three best all-time seasons according to efficiency rating? Now there's still 60 more games to go, but it would be Giannis, it would be Luca, it would be Harden, and then it would be the two Wilt seasons where he averaged like 1 billion points, the two video game seasons for Wilt. Not amazing, but yeah, I think Harden is the most consistent to be efficient in general, and a lot of that is because he's going to take a lot of shots, but he's going to make a lot. So a lot of that is because of pace, but that's all stats. So that's why I say that Harden. My definition of natural scorer. So you're right. What does natural mean? But my definition is Durant, and he would work on any team. Harden may not work with like a Popovich, right? Popovich, who doesn't want to shoot a bunch of threes and stuff. Harden may not work with that. I don't know. You know what I mean? So that's my definition.
I like it. I just was curious, those two guys, it's a shame that we can't see him play this year, injuries. I hope he comes back, Kevin Durant, easy money sniper. I hope he comes back and plays well with Kyrie, who's having some issues with team chemistry right now in New York. Surprisingly,
yeah.
He's, I hate to say it, but it's trending in the direction where he ruins team chemistry, and that's not good.
Yeah, he's starting to be a head case where you didn't really know it. Jimmy Butler was the same way. Like you always expected Jimmy Butler to be, when he was in Chicago, you always thought of him as a hard worker. You remember those old Chicago teams where everyone was a hard worker and they were getting into the playoffs and stuff. And these last few years has been the same way. And I think I see Kyrie doing that too, but we'll see what happens with Kevin Durant shows up there. But the truth is, Kevin Durant, of all the things that he's good for, he's not much of a leader. In fact, he's more likely to be insulted by someone like Kyrie. So
I think he has now learned how to win and how to be a leader from playing on the Golden State Warriors. I think that has helped him. I think absolutely. You're not in an environment, you're not in a culture, and don't learn. I'm not saying he's a great leader, but I'm saying he's learned how to have the qualities of what he's seen through playing with Klay Thompson, through being around Steve Kerr, through being around Steph Curry, what traits are of a good leader. And I'm not saying
you think he would be. You think he would be, but he was. You think the way you said it, you think that he would be, or before he went there, you go, he's going to learn to be a leader because of this. But he was a little butthurt about not being seen as the number one guy in Golden State, like among the fans, that it was still Curry's team, and like those reports coming out. He's just a sensitive guy, and it's okay. You're a sensitive guy, and we still like you.
Only with people that I like. So if I don't like you, I don't give up.
So I mean, maybe that's him too. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously the league is a little bit lesser of a league without Kevin Durant. Actually, those playoffs really just tore up the Golden State Warriors, not just because a couple of them went to other teams, just injuries and everything. So next year we'll see. But the truth is that Kyrie's probably past his prime anyway. Let's say he wasn't a head case. I think he's probably plateaued and is like probably down here on his let me see, does that work? Ooh, does my bell curve work? I'm not sure. But he's probably plateaued on his like being one of the best. I don't know. Who's the MVP right now? First 20 games.
Who? First 20 games. I mean, I just don't see how you don't. I don't see how you can't give it to Giannis. I mean,
You're saying Giannis,
He's
not
been
Luca
productive. Luca's right there too, but I feel like Giannis is continuing to do the most with the least. Because that's always been my definition. You tried to skew it, my definition earlier, but it's always been who can do the most with the least, like who's overproducing as a result on what we expected them to do with the least. And I think Middleton's been hurt for a good portion of the season, not a lot, but he's been hurt for quite a few games. And I just think Giannis is very efficient in his scoring. He scored 60-some points the other night, and he is starting to shoot a few threes here and there. But I mean, for the vast majority of his points is free throws and field goals, 2-point field goals, which is impressive.
So two things on that. One, I think what puts Giannis over for me, at least versus Harden, is the defense, of course. Number two, I don't like your definition for MVP because that means Durant in Golden State should have never won an MVP because he was doing the most with the most.
So
right?
I would agree. I would agree with that. Maybe he didn't deserve the MVP.
Yeah. So I would say, but then he would also be ineligible for it almost because he was on the most. I mean, the MVP to me is who is the best player this year. So you take in all accounts. Like if you only played half, who's the best player this year? If this is how I would define it. Try this.
LeBron.
Who played the best? Otherwise, LeBron would get it every year, right? So right now, the person that's playing the best is Giannis. But let me put it this way. Let me see if this works. You're playing fantasy.
By your definition, it goes to Luca.
I think Giannis.
This last month, he averaged a 30-point triple-double. Look up how many people have done that in a month.
Yeah, but Giannis over the whole year, I think, has still been better than Luca. But they're close. You're AB, right? If someone said it was Luca, I'm fine with it. Here's my definition. Imagine you're playing fantasy basketball, okay? And you know the stat, and you're playing our style, not averages, right? You're playing only counting stats. And you know the stats. You have a crystal ball, right? So in general, in most fantasy leagues, if Durant's not hurt, Durant is the first pick, or Anthony Davis is the first pick with the blocks or whatever, right? But you have a crystal ball, and you know what all the stats are going to be at the end of the year, okay? So who would be first pick if you knew who the stats would be? Because when you don't know what the stats will be, it's going to be Durant, it's going to be Anthony Davis, it's going to be LeBron in some past years. It's going to be Giannis, right? That's when you don't know the stats. That's when you're just, you're just predicting because the year is starting. But what if you knew all the stats? Who would be your number one fantasy guy? That's the MVP. So what that takes down is if Giannis misses 2 or 3 months, he gets hurt, misses 2 or 3 months, but plays Tannehill level in this case. I'll call, this is why Tannehill shouldn't win the MVP in my mind, but plays great before and after. Maybe he shouldn't get it because you wouldn't pick him on your fantasy team because he missed so much time, right? But Anthony Davis maybe, Giannis maybe, or whoever else maybe. Does that make sense? That's a hard definition to explain to people, but it's the guy that had the best season, and not even necessarily the guy that's Luka. The best.
That's got to be Luca.
Yeah, it's Luca or Giannis.
He impacts the game from multiple parts of the game: assists, rebounds, points. I like that kid.
So then it's Luca for sure. Then I agree, right? Or it's Giannis, right?
Right.
If you were doing, so the problem with my definition is that it, except for blocks and steals, it leaves out shutdown defense, right? Because then a player like wow, as everyone's slipping my name.
A healthy Avery Bradley.
Yeah, something like that. So a player like that, it leaves out shutdown defense. So by my definition,
Beverly, one of your favorites, Patrick Beverly.
Yeah, or Kawhi actually, because Kawhi shuts the guy down. He gets steals and some blocks or whatever, but not stats wise. He shuts people down.
What does that guy even play? Who are you talking about?
Is he? Well, that's why he won't win the MVP, right? By my definition. But let's say Kawhi played the whole year. It doesn't take what my definition does is it overemphasizes stats because then Harden's in the conversation now, and then Kawhi, if he played all year, it drops a Kawhi down, a guy that shuts the other player down, but doesn't necessarily get a bunch of steals or blocks. You know what I mean? So the definition's iffy. But it's really like if you know who you would want on your team, stats wise or play wise, that's the guy, right? Not who is the best player, because the best player in the league right now is Giannis. But the best player who's played the best is probably Luca or Giannis, right there, back and forth. So anyway, how the Cavs doing?
The Cavs are a very young team. Go Cavs. The Cavs are a very young team.
You changed the hat.
Yeah. The Cavs are a young team that's trying to find success with a young head coach. They're rebuilding. A lot of people think that they should get rid of Kevin Love. They feel like he still has some value, and I think I could agree with that. But I think the city really likes him. He's a Caucasian basketball player, so this red state of Ohio really likes him. They want to support him, and especially since LeBron left them a bitter taste in their mouth.
Well, it didn't feel like people were as mad at him leaving this time.
Well, no, but they still were mad. But there was no burning of jerseys in the streets, But I think we got a young team. We're still trying to figure out, the roles and who can do what. But they actually play tomorrow. I'm thinking about maybe going check out the game.
What's a ticket to a Cavs game cost?
You could get good seats like 100 level for $40, $45.
Not bad.
So not bad. Not
as good. So, not as good as the Corey Maggette Clippers, where I used to get, the nosebleeds for $10. Parking costs more than the ticket. And then it was the Clippers. They were bad. And you walk downstairs.
So let me ask you this: as far as any teams that surprise you thus far, or any teams you think? What do you think of Carmelo Anthony back on the Portland Trailblazers playing with the Blazers?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say the Blazers, but more Carmelo Anthony this last week, and I like it that they gave him. The Blazers over the year haven't been playing that well because they were a playoff team last year, and I don't think they're in the top 8 on the West right now. But hey, good for Carmelo. Because in general, I didn't think it was going to be successful. I want the guy to succeed like I want anyone else to, but Carmelo is actually the opposite of James Harden. The game sort of passed him by and he didn't adapt. He wanted to keep being that scorer, the kind of scorer he was. And it's working so far. But I'm going to tell you that I think that the Timberwolves are a surprising team. And I don't know if they can keep it up through the whole year. But Wiggins playing well suddenly. I don't know if I believe it. I'll only believe it when he plays the way he's been playing the whole year. The Mavericks obviously are a surprise, but that's a lot of Luca. And let's see, I'm looking at the standings now. The Clippers are a surprise that they're not tearing everyone up, right? But I think that they're playing the rest game, and we'll start seeing January and February some of that. We'll start seeing them really pick it up. How about you? What are the surprising teams? Heat.
Heat Heat are playing pretty good right now. I'm interested to see the Nuggets. They've been playing pretty consistently with Jokic. They actually play tomorrow night against the Celtics, who is a surprising team. I thought they'd be a little bit more productive than they have been this far this year. Hopefully they can figure things out.
They are
another surprising team for me is the Spurs. The Spurs have not really found much success this year, and I'm not really sure why.
Because everyone is not good there.
But is that Popovich's model? I mean, before we could always think that, oh wow, Popovich is just going to plug and play and have a very good defensive team. Is
And
that
it's not
model
working anymore?
right? So has the game kind of evolved to a point where that model no longer works?
My opinion is yes, but only 5% on that, 10% on that. To a certain extent, yeah. I think what it is.
How did you quantify? I got to know how you quantify.
I did some deep statistical. I think what you said is true to a certain extent, but I think the real thing is that one, Aldridge isn't as good as we thought, especially defensively. He's not that good. And DeMar and DeRozan, Kawhi really ruined that team because they had to figure out how to get rid of him. They got the best thing they could, which is DeMar DeRozan. And the truth is he, and I feel for that guy because I read an article that he wrote about getting traded. But I feel for him. But the truth is he's not a super great player.
I think that's the problem. I think Aldridge still has a little bit left in the tank, and DeRozan just is not as good as people thought he was. I mean, I think basketball IQ is something that he may have lacked, and that was hidden in Toronto with Kyle Lowry. I think a lot of people, hate on Kyle Lowry's game because he's a little chubby, but I think he has a strong understanding of the basketball game. And, he knows how to make clutch plays.
I think Rosen needs another star, probably another guard near him, and then it'll make him look better. That's maybe what Lowry did.
To bring this full circle, to get back to Carmelo, because I didn't get a chance to give you my opinion, I think it's a good fit. I think Portland had a lot of success in their backcourt. They had two really good guards that were successful. You could argue that they battled just as well between the two of them versus Steph Curry, maybe. But I think now when you interject Carmelo, you have a guy that's going to be able to hit that 16-footer, that mid-range game. You don't need him in crunch time to take over and win a game. You don't need him to control the ball like a la LeBron James. But I think if you have a guy, you got a bunch of two shooters, two guards that can get into the paint, hit the three, and you keep Carmelo out there on the elbow, and he makes his money from there. I think you got a good and a guy that gets you some boards and gets some points. I think you have a solid playoff team. Are they going to be world beaters and beat the Lakers? Probably not, or the Clippers. But I think they could definitely advance, within a couple series of the Western Conference.
Well, if they make the playoffs, so two things on that one. If they make the playoffs, they're likely going to play the Clippers or the Lakers.
Get them out of there.
Yeah. I don't see them, even if they play on the, even if they achieve in the level you're thinking. I don't think that they're going to be a 6th, 7th, 8th seed.
I think they could be competitive. And when I say that, I'm not saying they're with the Lakers or the Clippers, but I think they could maybe play with, the Mavericks or possibly what's the other?
The Jazz.
The Jazz, like that. But the Mavericks.
Those will be lower seeds. I think the only thing I really have a problem with is I don't think the 16-footer is if that's your shot, then I don't think you're gonna be productive in this game. I think today.
I think you're mistaken, and we're going to defer to my basketball knowledge here on that one.
You don't know it. All you've done since you've known me is get torn up at basketball.
I can't believe you said.
Hey,
I can't believe you compared me to LeBron's biggest travel.
Oh yeah, that's what we're gonna close. Let's close up the show with that. When I saw LeBron do number one, I didn't even when I saw it on my phone. It was grainy footage, and they were wearing. Everyone seemed to be wearing different uniforms. Like the uniforms weren't the standard ones I'm used to anyway. And when I saw it, and I'm looking at it quickly, I thought it was G League. I was like, oh, that's a G League move. And then later on, I'm reading about it. I go, oh, it's LeBron. It's LeBron. It was real NBA basketball. But first thing I thought, okay, that looked like good old Wayne playing in the UNLV in the UNLV basketball courts after our investment class. It's when we got a good 10 of us, or 8 of us. We play some 4-on-4, 5-on-5. I hated being on your team because all I would be doing is cutting and getting open, right? Like that's the thing I do. That's the thing I do. No, and you'd be talking. You never found me, and you'd just be talking, and then I would stop. You'd talk to the guy that's guarding you, and then I'd stop, and I'd be tired. You'd be done talking. You'd be like, "Move around, move around," and more than once, you came up with the ball in half court. So whatever your text said didn't make any sense. You came up with the ball in half court and did the LeBron. More than once. Well, ask them.
I think I'd cross the court, and then I'd like start initiating coming from the other end of the court. Then I'd stop, and then I'd start again to restart. And I'd say check the ball, and you might get offended by that. Like, how are you going to say check the ball? And you already crossed court and you started play. I didn't cover you. I didn't cover you. I pull down rebounds and stuff, so I wasn't covering you. No, I think one of your other biggest gripes is I would pass the ball where I thought you would be, and you would never be there. I think that is also
no, because I would prefer that. Because I'll get to it, but you wouldn't. Number one, we were rarely on the same team. Let's clear that up. We're rarely on the same team. The example I gave where I'm cutting and you're talking, that only happened once.
Why do I fondly have memories of me and Trevor finding success against you and whomever?
No, you didn't. You lost that game. You got mad. I shot us.
Me and Trevor, shut you guys down.
You did not. You got mad at me. Do you remember the no-look 3? I hit a no-look 3, and you went, he wasn't even looking. You weren't even impressed. You were mad because I hit it without looking. And then and then you were also really annoyed about how I was getting to the basket. So it was me and Sean, by the way, those games.
Next podcast, Trevor, we're gonna have him on with us, and we'll go with his recollection.
You were so bad that Trevor saw you go up and down, and he was on your team, and he told you that you did. You're like, no, I didn't. Everyone saw you go into the air and then come back down with the ball.
It's called a pump fake.
Your own teammate was like, give it away. Stop fighting it. Yeah, you can't. Anyway, we're going to end the show with that. My name's Chris Sarda. This way.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I gotta pull an Angelo here. We cannot end this without talking about some of the most upcoming 2020 UFC fights. Like what? We're not going to talk about Conor and Cowboy coming up here in January. We're not going to.
We'll do a whole show. We'll do a whole show on that tomorrow. Can you stream tomorrow?
Khabib. Well, yeah, we could definitely do it, but I got to at least mention it. Khabib and my boy Tony Ferguson.
That fight's not going to be on
in April.
That fight's going to get
canceled.
Everybody
says that. That fight's going down.
It's the fifth time. I agree. Anyway, we'll do a whole MMA show. I like to separate the MMA stuff anyway because it seems to be a different fan base.
I feel like we had to mention it. Had to be mentioned going into 2020.
I can talk. I mean, and we also got the. God, this is why I like to prepare because I'm so bad with names. We also got a big boxing match coming up, the Ruiz rematch. With,
yeah.
I wanted to mention Kawhi earlier.
Joshua.
Yeah, Anthony Joshua. I wanted to mention Kawhi, one of the best players of our generation. I wanted to mention him earlier, and it took me a good 4 minutes while we were talking to remember his name. And all I was doing was trying to think of his name.
Yeah, it's late, man.
Like that's how bad I am. That's how bad I am with names sometimes. Anyway, let's roll out
midnight here on the East Coast. All right, brother.
My name's Chris Sarda. This is Wayne. Find us at Chaotic Sports on Twitter and also at Chris Sarda and at Insane Wayne this way. At Insane Wayne or at Never Do I Lose on Twitter. And we will see you guys next time. See you later.
Peace.
Oh, dude, this didn't stream at all. I never hit live.
It says live on my end.
I'm kidding, dude.